So I'm going to turn things over to my friend Larry, and some of you might know Larry, and if you know him for other reasons, if you didn't know that he was a collaborator, do know that Larry himself, whether as a board member of a specific or a certain organization, or just being a partner in the community, he has played some major roles in helping some major collaborations in our community. One of them being, whether you want to look at it as a collaboration or merger, which we're going to touch on today, but bringing St. Luke's and General Hospital together. You were the board chair at the time? He was the board chair at the time, which that was not an easy task. But there are other examples that he's going to talk about, but I felt that Larry was well-equipped, well-versed, and well-experienced to help guide and facilitate the discussion and presentation around collaboration today.
But I do appreciate the opportunity with it and Renee's introduction. What I'd like to do today is, for the agenda, is really run through what we're talking about when we're talking about collaboration. What do we really mean by it? Why is it important? Who can participate? How do you find the opportunities to collaborate? What are some of the obstacles? Is there a process that you could use to go through in your organizations to figure out whether collaboration would be a good thing or a bad thing for you? We're going to talk about some successes with Rich and Pam and Sherry. They'll talk about some of the processes that they went through, and then we'll have a question and answer period at the end of that. Hopefully, I'm going to try to keep my comments to about 30 minutes. If you have a question during that period of time, feel free to raise your hand on it. If I say we're going to get to that in a minute, then give me a second and we can get through to that. And hopefully I'll answer your questions. If not, come back at me with it, if you would please. Collaboration, the definition. You know, it's really pretty simple, to work jointly with others. Probably most importantly, when we see it used today, we're talking about cooperating with an agency or an institution with which we are not affiliated with. The word collaborate is used, and I don't want to say excessively in today's discussions, but in the business world and the not-for-profit world for funders, wherever you may go on foundations, the word collaboration is part of what they're talking about. So it's a good idea that we all have an understanding of what we really mean by collaboration. It really is a synonym for some other words that we've been using for years. It's the same thing as partners or partnerships, working together with another group. It's teamwork, working with others in your community to really bring about a goal that you couldn't do otherwise. It's alliances, the Great Lakes Bay Regional Alliance, which is a business alliance between the Chamber of Commerce. That's a collaboration effort. Same thing. We used to say, let's join forces and take it to wherever we're going with it, with whatever those goals are. We were going to pool our resources. Cooperation on leveraging assets. Again, these are all synonymous with the same thing. We've talked about these things for years and years and years. Just use terminology. The terminology today is collaboration. Not a bad thing. It's really a very good thing with it, but it's something that we've been really trying to bring about in our communities for years. And not just communities, I have to say the business world and has been challenged with collaborations for years, internally and externally. Okay, why is it important? If we're to achieve our organizational goals, each one of our organizations have goals that we want to achieve. Some of us have some limited resources that we may not be able to do it ourselves. We may not be able to reach the height or break down the barriers that we're trying to get through by ourselves. So we may need to look to somebody else to help us reach those goals. You can enhance your impact or your outcomes. You know, when you say you have the organizations are designed to really improve the livelihood of individuals. And improving that livelihood, if you could work with somebody else and actually get to more people, enhance or do a better job for those people, then that would be a good thing. I think we should all be looking forward to bring about. Effective use of resources. We all have resources within our organizations, and using those resources correctly, efficiently, efficacy is what they talk about, with making sure that the resources are appropriate for really bringing about the results that the organization is designed to bring about. Their stakeholders' demands. Those that we're saying that we're going to serve are sitting there demanding more out of us all the time. The community is a stakeholder in what we do, so the more that we can bring to the community and to those stakeholders, the better off we're all going to be. The community is going to be in our organizations. There's learning opportunities, the learning of best practices by collaborating. You're working together with somebody else, you may learn that they're doing something a little bit differently and it works a heck of a lot better than it does in my organization. Best practices it's one of the most important things that we can learn as we're going through. We don't have to develop everything internally. We don't have to be the ones that came up with the great idea. Others can have those ideas and they can work in your own organizations. So through collaboration, you can learn a lot from other organizations on how they've benefited. And donor requirements. Again, if you look at the grant proposal that Renee was just talking about, collaboration is mentioned in there. I dare say if you look at anything from any of the major foundations, one of the questions on it is going to be collaboration. If we look at, I know I work closely with United Way and Sherry on it, and as we're going forward in that, you're going to see collaboration as being a major issue with the funding through United Way. So donor requirements simply aren't going to go away. That's probably going to increase. I can show you article after article, whether it's from Dow, it's from Dow Corning, it's from any of the major foundations, Kellogg Foundation, even your local community foundations. Collaboration is always in there. Going back, it's synonymous again with being a partner, being a team player, working with others in your community to really bring about the impact that you're designed to come up with in the first place. Who can participate? Not-for-profits. NGO is non-governmental organizations. There's a lot of what we would call non-governmental organizations out there that aren't actually, they may not really quite be a not-for-profit, but they're kind of in that range. They could have some governmental funding, but not really be a government organization with it. Neighborhood associations, educational institutions, business, labor, healthcare providers, governmental units, all are potential collaboration partners. And it really is there's really no barriers to who any one of us can work with. It really depends on the situation that you're really trying to bring about. We had a situation with Renee on the Consumers Challenge on it. Consumers Power comes up and they offered, what was it, 120, there's a sign down, the check's down, it's down. Downstairs, offered $125,000 to it. They went to the Community Foundation and asked the Community Foundation what you thought would be a good project. They also put on there a challenge with it. You had to match that $125,000 and they would come up with something like that. They ended up with Dindorfer Woods, the neighborhood association. So there ended up being $250,000 to go for the improvement of that. You also brought in that, you brought a tremendous number of volunteers from consumers and also the community that came forward to help revitalize Dindorfer Park. Now you go by Dindorfer Park right now and it is a market improvement to where it used to be. Sometimes I don't think we really recognized it as a park before this took place with it. But it was a tremendous improvement for the community. It adds a lot to that neighborhood, significant amount to that neighborhood. It doesn't, it may be in a situation that you come up with something that Sherry with the United Way uses for the handicap, the ramps for the handicap, they're building the ramps for the handicap. Okay. There's labor. Labor says, I'll support this. The carpenters unions and all those guys come together and say, you know, that's a great project, I'll work with that. The business community comes together and says, I'll provide the wood for you and materials for you to build it on. And then there's also a number of volunteers, but it's organized by the United Way. So you're seeing multiples of organizations. You're seeing a not-for-profit. You're seeing labor. You're seeing business all coming together. There's many opportunities for healthcare providers, educational units, even governmental units, even police work. The police departments can work with you on certain things at times with it. So you've got to really look broadly and say, okay, what am I trying to accomplish, and who else would have an interest in seeing me accomplish this? And trying to bring those people to the table. How do you find opportunities? You have things like community initiatives, such as Renee has put out with the Foundation's grant on it. There's a number of those community initiatives that are out there, and you will see 90% of the time that, my organization, if you looked at it, my organization could do something to help with that. I'm not sure I could take the whole goal and accomplish the whole thing, but if I work with some other groups, maybe then we can actually do a lot more than we can as a single individual. I mean, we know that one person trying to pick up a stone, has a heck of a time trying to move it. But you put two people together moving that stone, it's a much easier job with it. And that's what we're really talking about. You may look at your own organization and see that you've got limitations in your own organization. Maybe I don't have the manpower to be able to do all I need to do. Maybe I don't have the space to do exactly what I need to do. Maybe I don't have the funding at this point in time to be able to completely accomplish what the goals are that I want. So I need to look for others to help me accomplish those goals. That's the next point, shared visions and shared outcomes. You look for others that are looking in the same manner at your projects, may have the same intent of really accomplishing what your goals are in your organization, and you find a way of partnering with those people. Maybe there's shared barriers. When I say by shared barriers, I'm giving an example of it was in Nashville, Tennessee, and there were a number of not-for-profit organizations that were providing services to the community, educational services. They're trying to enhance the education. And what they found out is that they really couldn't judge their effectiveness because they couldn't get any data from the schools. They couldn't get anything as far as grades were concerned. They couldn't get anything as far as attendance was concerned. They couldn't get any of those things. And as individuals, they had gone to the schools and tried to address it, and the schools basically said, well, we can't do this, we can't do this. They finally put a coalition together of individuals. They got funding from a private source for multiple years to put together the committee and go to the schools and start working with the schools to find that information. They were able to break down those barriers. They were able to get that information. Then they can actually really judge what their performance has been. Because it's really, it's a matter of being able to, what have we accomplished? What was our goal? Did we accomplish the goal? Have we made any changes in the community? Are the people better off for what we were doing? And we need to measure those things. Integrated solutions. When I talk about integrated solutions, I'm talking a situation where we have after-school programs. And the after-school programs maybe come in and play basketball, maybe do a little bit of this. Well, maybe there's an opportunity at the same place to have another organization come in that can help work with these kids on education. Maybe there's something they can do as far as health care when they have these kids, because they're all together at one time. So it's not, if I'm the one providing the after-school program, that's great. But is there an opportunity to bring in other organizations that can provide additional services for the people attending them? It may be a situation where you have overcapacity. You've got room in your facility, and you find out that there's somebody else that is pushed for space, and they can't grow and do the job that they need to do because they don't have enough space. Maybe you can provide that space for them. Maybe it's transportation. Maybe it's, we could do a lot more, but we just can't get the individuals from this point to that point. Is there a way of working out that transportation? Collaborating with somebody on the transportation issues. Networking. Finding the opportunities is networking. coming to meetings like this. You all have, there is the, I know United Way has their meetings with all of the funded agencies, and through those discussions you can oftentimes find, hey, I'm having that same problem, or if I have the overcapacity, and then you can find somebody that maybe doesn't have the overcapacity. So you have to network within the community to find the opportunities. Go ahead.
I kind of had a question about the shared barriers example that you were talking about, with going to the schools and not being able to get the information, and then you said about how money was found, and then they went to the schools and could get the information. So was the school needing to be bribed, or what's
Was the school what?
Are you saying the school needed the money, or I don't get?
No, the schools, it wasn't the money, it's just that the schools, I'll be honest with you, the school, from what I understand, the schools couldn't be bothered with talking to 10, 15 different organizations about getting them data. Okay? And they put a coalition together with it. It was one person going to the schools and having a discussion with the schools and saying, we need this information to be able to judge whether or not our programs are really providing the service we're intending them to. We can't make a judgment unless we know that these kids are actually going to school. If I'm working on a truancy issue, okay, and I have no way of judging whether the kids ever went to school, the school has that information and can provide it for me. So the school turned around and found a way to be able to provide that information. You got all the privacy issues, and I'm sure part of it was the privacy issues, and we can't divulge this information and that information. But when they put the coalition together and they sat down and they had an explanation of working with with the schools and with the coalition, the schools began to understand what the issue was. The schools also understood that these other organizations could bring a benefit to them. If on a truancy issue, if you can get those kids to start coming to school, your progress is going to be a heck of a lot better than it is if they're not coming to school. So again, it's mutual benefit to both parties that come. The outside funding was an organization, or an individual, actually, from what I understand, it was an individual that basically agreed with them, saw that it was a problem, and was willing to provide funds to make sure that the process took place over the next number of years. And it was multiple years. So it wasn't something that happened one year and then went away. It was something that they were there to be able to work with over a long period of time. But there are a lot of situations where there are shared barriers, where we're not able to obtain information, we're not able to do some things. We've all got those barriers, and breaking down those barriers is an important part of the process. Obstacles. There's lots of obstacles to collaboration. Okay, and I probably should have gone back to when we were in the definition and what the synonyms for collaboration was. You notice that consolidation was not one of the synonyms for collaboration. We're not talking about, and that fear goes up oftentimes when we talk about collaboration. Everybody leans back, oh my God, they want me to join up with so-and-so, or they want me to do this, or to merge, to be acquired, or whatever it is. We're not talking with collaboration. We're not talking about consolidation. Consolidation isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's a very good example of it here with consolidation, where it brought a tremendous benefit. It was, we weren't getting the services we needed in Saginaw. With collaboration with Midland, now we're able to get services here in the area that we didn't have before. That's a very good thing. But when we're talking collaboration, it isn't talking about consolidation. The silos, politics, turf wars, they exist in the not-for-profit world as much as they exist in the business world. And internally, it can be disastrous to an organization. I'll give you, in all of this, obstacles, I at one time was chairman of the MSU Development Fund, which is the fundraising arm for Michigan State University. It was a nice little perk. It was, they took us down to university 2 or 3 times a year, put us up overnight, gave us all kinds of, we had a dinner, they brought in all kinds of people to talk to us, and to be honest with all of you, we did nothing. Okay? There was a group of about 45 or 50 people that absolutely did nothing. We changed, the director changed during my term, and the challenges started immediately. There was turf wars within the organization. There was the athletic group that was fighting with the other group, and they said, "You're taking money away from me," and by the way, where are my tickets? I mean, that was, turf wars. They occur everywhere. Not, it's just it's part of our nature. But once we changed the director on it and we really began to look at what the mission of the organization was, things started to change very drastically on it. In fact, I at one time went to the director and said, "Why do you even bother to have meetings with us?" Because we really aren't doing anything. Every time you went out with a fund drive, you brought in a whole new group. So why do you have a development fund if you're going to get somebody new out of it? Things changed around, and actually the program was the fastest growing, had the fastest increases in contributions of the Big Ten for the next 7 years in a row, once they changed it around. So you can change those silos, those politics, and those truth wars. The reluctance to change, because I'm in an organization, and we've been doing it my way, we've been doing it this way for all these years. Why do I want to change what I'm doing? We've been effective. We think we're effective, we're doing a good job. Probably you are doing a good job with it. But the question is really, could you do a better job? Is there a better way of doing the things with it? Sometimes it's overwhelming goals. Sometimes you can see that when the collaboration effort comes out that they say, wow, the goal is just overwhelming. We can't achieve that. We can't do that. Okay? You got to break it down in little pieces then. And really start to say, well, I can contribute to this. I can do this, and it will make it all better. Another area is sharing the rewards on it, because if you're successful with it and it's a multiples of groups, there's always this issue with, well, so-and-so got the credit. I didn't get the credit for it. And don't get me wrong. This happens in business. It happens in government. It happens in not-for-profits. You always have those things going on. I bring these things up because I want you to really try to get an idea of those things. And when you're talking about doing something within your organization and you might be saying no to it, I want you to go back and think, am I really is this part of my turf war? Am I just reluctant to change? Or what is it that I'm saying no to it? But I don't want to be, not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying, these things exist. They exist in the business world. I work with people in the business world, and this is, it's the silos, the internal politics, and the turf wars are absolutely disastrous to many organizations out there. So it's something that you need to really look at and make sure that you're not the one that's out there really preventing something that's very good that can happen for the community. Whoops. We're not at the end of the slideshow. Okay. Bear with me a second here. I hit the wrong button. Okay. We could go on for any one of these topics for a significant period of time, but I think enough said on what the obstacles are. You need a process for collaborating, and when is it that I need to collaborate, or should not collaborate, and it's really tough. And I highlight the discovery part because I think that's where really everything comes together. Is when you really discover that maybe there's an unmet need, or there's a limitation within my organization, or there's some barriers that I simply can't overcome. Now, whether you make that discovery as an individual organization, or you make it that discovery when you're in a networking situation, it all is going to drive the same in the same way. If you're an individual organization, as you go through this process, you have to really assess whether or not you can do it. You can really, you have the resources to be able to bring it about, or do you need to bring somebody else in with you to be able to do it? You need to be able to really describe what the current state is. If I go back to the Nashville, the description of what the state was is we can't get information to be able to judge whether we're doing a good job or not. That really doesn't leave us in a very good position. Our funders are going to sit there and say, give me data. Well, you can say I'm pushing data through, but I don't know really what the outcome. I don't know whether I've done any benefits. I've had, umpteen so many kids go through this program, but I have no idea whether they're going to school or not. You need that data. You also need to be able to describe what the future state is. The future state being is, okay, if I could remove those barriers, what would the world look like if I could remove those barriers? You need to be able to define and tell people what what the future state would be. We've got that information, so now we can judge whether we're doing anything. If we've had a problem, the truancy issue is actually growing, then we know what the programs that we're doing aren't effective. Okay, what do we need to change in order to be able to do that? You got to identify what the solutions are, how to get by those barriers, or how to meet those unmet needs, limitations, or whatever they are. And then this one, assess the liabilities, or excuse me, the abilities of your organization to be able to really bring about the change that you're working for. Again, you have to be very honest with yourselves when you're doing this, and say, do I have the capacity? Do I have the personnel? Do I have the monetary resources? Do I have the facilities? Do I have the transportation? Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you have to be honest with yourselves on whether or not you have the ability to really bring it about. If you don't, then you've got to identify those other community resources that you can bring to play to bring it about. And there's other organizations that are out there that are more than willing to work with you. Okay? Not, if you bring to them what your problems are or what you're trying to do, and they sit there and they say, well, this is something I should be able to help with. I don't care whether it's funders or whether it's another organization or whoever, but there are organizations that will work with you and try to bring about what your goals are. The implementation is really mobilizing those resources, bringing them to bear, and then really what kind of measures would you have? How have things changed? And I think probably, if I look at two things, it's discovery and how it's discovered, and being honest with yourself and the organization is, do you have the resources to bring about the changes that you need? If not, who else can help me do that? And then how do I measure the outcome at the end of it? What's the benefit that the community got for doing this? Measurement is a community impact. It's a little bit different measurement than really measuring the activities. And what we're really talking about, Sherry brought me into this in the last year or so with it, is the measuring really the impact or the outcome that you've had on the community. It's not necessarily the number of people, the number of activities that you have, but it's the outcome that you actually had in the community. Okay,